Esto es RTMB Podcas, el lado diferente de la música extrema.
Buenos días, buenas tardes o buenas noches o cuando sea el momento en el que estén escuchando esta grabación, podcast, entrevista o como lo consideren. Pues esta vez vamos a estar hablando, como pueden ver en el título, con uno de los fundadores de la banda Enslaved, de nombre Grutle Kjellson, su vocalista, ¿no? Vamos a estar teniendo una pequeña conversación con él acerca pues de algo de su historia y hablando un poco acerca de este nuevo lanzamiento Utgard, ¿no? Me va a acompañar pues Alfonso en esta entrevista y esperamos que la disfruten, ¿no, Alfonso?
Así es, buenos días. Un pequeñito disclaimer es que ahorita estamos grabando en la mañana, bueno, a mediodía donde está Luis. Entonces tal vez escuchen un poco más de ruidos de fondo de lo que quisiéramos, no es cosa nuestra. Acéptenlo. Y bueno, sí, venimos a hablar escuchamos el nuevo disco de Enslaved, Utgard. Y bueno, pues había preguntas que hacerle a la banda. Y si él nos la concede es su vocalista, Grutle. Estábamos teniendo un debate sobre cómo se pronunciaba. Y bueno, es un disco que la primera impresión que deja es de cambios, es de no diré que nuevas resoluciones. Aquí Luis y yo tenemos una pequeña diferencia de postura, pero que en sí nos lleva a lo mismo en cuanto a lo que percibimos de este disco. Y sí, tenemos preguntas para el señor Grutle. Poquitas preguntas que esperemos nos den un buen panorama de lo que la banda es, de lo que este disco, de las pretensiones de este disco y bueno, comentarlo también ligeramente para ustedes. Ya ahorita en unos momentos, bueno, todavía no se llega la hora, pero estaremos haciendo la llamada con el señor y bueno, haciéndole nuestras preguntas. So we have been listening to the album, and well, I would like to start off by pointing out how surprising it is this record to me. Utgard is Enslaved's number 15 album on the list, and well, the fact that we are still receiving surprisingly good albums from you guys is no small feature, I think. So what I can see from this record, at least for me, is that it can even be disruptive at times. It also seems like a reaction to your latest albums, you know. So, well, at least with the intention of breaking those kind of expectations from the past albums. So, my question is, were there any special motivations for making this album?
I mean, there's always a motivation to go on and continue, and it's pretty easy for a band like Enslaved because we've never stuck to any formulas. We've always been moving ahead, making the next album different from the previous one, and we have never been afraid of doing so, or we have never followed any expectations or anything like that. We just want to create good music, like your own favorite music, like something that you would. Like a record you would turn on your own turntable and enjoy yourself. So I mean, we never consider anyone's expectations to anything, and we've never done that. So it has been very enjoyable to make all the albums. all over the years. So you can say that the only challenge we feel is the one that we put on ourselves to do something different from the last one.
So, well, that's good, because it works for the band and for us too, the fans. So, I guess this is all because you don't care about what we can think of any record of you guys, right? So you just make music that is good for you.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the only healthy approach to you know, the art of songwriting. I mean, if you are making something to please somebody but yourself, it all becomes very, very sterile and very constructed and just like wrong on so many levels. But I think our fans really appreciate that way of thinking. I think they appreciate the challenge we sort of put on them for every release. They're not expecting a new album to sound exactly like one of the albums we have done before. So I think people have our fans have grown to really appreciate that.
Yeah, we do. We actually appreciate it. So thank you.
Yeah. So
I mean, if not, you can just listen to the old albums. There's like 15 of them. So it's not a problem.
Yeah. So continuing with this topic, when I listened to this album, I felt the sensation of taking a tour over the band's musical career. I relate this to the cover of Houndbound, you know, and my question is, it's Utgard made with the intention of fans recognizing the sounds of different stages of the band?
I mean, the thing is that we has never been any conscious move on any song that we have ever made of having it to sound like this or the other way, or there's never been a goal to have it sound anything specific really. So it's just about going with the flow and see where it ends. But then again, of course, all songs are very much influenced and colored by the things that the writers, the performers, sources of inspiration. I mean, if you have been listening to one band, let's say if you listen to Pink Floyd for 12 months in a row, and then you start writing a new song or an album, it will end up sounding like someone like Pink Floyd. That was just an example. I mean, we are five guys that constantly, we're pretty much searching for new, interesting music to listen to. Some of us are, record collectors, and everybody is like music lovers, not genre lovers, but I mean, we like all kinds of music, and we listen to all kinds of music, and obviously when five guys are listening to a huge variety of different music, there's so many angles, there's so many sources of inspiration, and that's constantly evolving, and that's one of the more natural reasons why it sounds different than the last one, because everything is like evolving all the time. And I think that's pretty interesting. I mean, and we the only thing we have into consideration when we are arranging a new song is that if it reminds us of something we have done before, we will throw it away. It has to move on. It has to move forward in some direction. It doesn't matter which direction.
That's like a rule for you guys.
I think it works.
Yeah. Well, about that, could you name a few of the artists or albums that have recently been in your rotation? I mean, not necessarily metal albums, but otherwise.
I mean, in rotation in my living room, you mean, or?
Yeah.
I think there's a Jeff Buckley album on right now. Yesterday it was a Popol Vuh album. The day before that I was listening to Prudence, a prog band from Norway in 1972 or something like that. So there's and some days ago I listened to a metal album called The End of Dormancy with Voivod from Canada. So there's metal on the turntable. There's prog. There's basically everything that we find interesting here in the house. So it's it's two types of music. It's good music and shitty music. So it really doesn't matter what you call a genre.
Yeah. Do you prefer the version of Hallelujah by Jeff Buckley or the original by Leonard Cohen?
I actually like Jeff Buckley, but the reason why I started listening to Jeff Buckley is that I was never really into Jeff Buckley. I was more into his father, Tim Buckley. And that Jeff Buckley album belongs to my girlfriend. So I was picking up an album at the record store, and she found the Jeff Buckley album for a reasonable price. So she just asked me, "Oh, yeah, can you buy this?" Yeah, sure. And then we went home and listened to it, and it is kind of he's kind of inspired by his father. I can really tell. But both of them are excellent artists and really nice, really moody, really there's lots of atmosphere, lots of heart. I mean, they meant it. They really meant it, and really soulful and strong, cool music. Very melancholic. I like that. Really good.
Well, about the evolution of the band, do you think that not being afraid to change is part of why a band like Enslaved remains relevant and strong, bringing important sounds to what is told today within string metal?
Yeah, I think so, because I think there's too many bands that follow in either their own footsteps or someone else's footsteps, and they're following some kind of expectations and using a formula. They work within frames that I don't find that very much interesting. I mean, remember that when this metal scene, the extreme metal scene in Norway, came about in the early 90s, it wasn't about listening to two bands. It wasn't just about listening to Celtic Frost and Bathory. There was like a huge variety of inspiration, all the way from avant-garde music, German electronica, classical music, the Amanda Galas, Kraftwerk, and of course contemporary metal bands, Moses Hammer and Tormentor, Mayhem. And classical metal like Merciful Fate, Scorpions, I mean UFO, all that was present. I mean it was a melting pot of influences already back then. So it doesn't. I mean, the extreme metal scene in Norway wasn't like year zero. It wasn't at all. I mean, the inspiration came also from elsewhere, and I think it's a crucial thing to allow yourself to get inspired, to do something different, and look ahead instead of try to recreate something that you have done before or others have done.
So well, in regards of that, do you also allow your music to read with your own music taste and all of that? Your influences, for example, do you allow that in your music?
Yeah, of course. I mean, when you are arranging a song, if you're writing a song and you want to try something out, and it ends up, okay, this is cool. It works. Of course. I mean, we don't have any boundaries. We don't have any laws. Music is not about laws. Music is about, and it's not streamlined. Music is about taking different paths. So we are constantly using new inspiration. Absolutely.
Okay, so no laws, no limitations for Enslaved. That's a good quote. I like it.
It's pretty chaotic.
All right. So, although it is the first album where you explored the prog realms, Mad Realm seems to be one of the most overlooked albums of your career. What do you think of this album today, Mr. Grutle?
There's definitely something about that album. It's and I think it's a lot more focused than both Bluehem and Monumention that came later. So I really like Mardrem. I even like the untuned guitars. But there's definitely a certain vibe. There's definitely some sort of a starting point there. I would say, yeah. I still find some like 2 or 3 songs on that album really good, and I also find material there not so good, and I would record today, but still. When we worked on the album, when we recorded it, when we released it, we were really enthusiastic about it, and yeah, I still have a good feeling about that, and I will not piss on that feeling. I would not. It's a good album, and yeah, I think it shines somewhere in the catalog as well. Yeah, still proud of it.
So, do you ever go to your early records and think, oh, I will do that again, or I like this, I will do that again? Does that ever happen for you? Like you want to try a better version of an older idea or your music?
No, not really. No. I mean, done is done, and you usually always. I mean, I'm still proud of every single album we've ever done, because we were really satisfied with those albums there. But I mean, you have like totally different angles, 20, 25, almost 30 years after that, and so although it can still be really enjoyable to play those songs live. We're not the type of band that like to walk backwards in our own footsteps. So no, I wouldn't do that.
All right, I get it. Well, I would like to take your experience for a moment here. I'm a metal head, or I consider to be a metal head, but I only have 15 years listening to that kind of music. And well, Enslaved is an angular part of extreme metal to several generations. So what kind of perspective can you tell us about the change that metal has undergone over time, the new styles, new generations of fans, and the current market line for bands like Enslaved?
Things have changed a good deal, of course. I mean, when we started, it was more or less, it was still just an underground movement. We had cassette tapes, we had demo tapes, we were like writing letters with people around the world. I mean, internet barely existed, and we didn't have computers or anything like that. So it was the mailbox, and it was fanzines. And in those days, it was like pretty utopic to even release an album, a vinyl. So I mean, and suddenly some of the underground bands became popular for various reasons, and you had internet suddenly emerged, and some of the bands even got like commercially successful and started to sell records, started to tour. We started to tour already back in 1995. Which is like, it's fucking 25 years ago, which is insane to think about.
Yeah.
And back then we physical format was still the thing. There were no streaming. There were like no such thing. So obviously things back then were really different. And you could easily get by, have a pretty steady income just with record sales, whereas today record sales are just like a small portion of your fee. The rest is live performance, and the merchandise, the effects you sell on a concert. So nowadays you can imagine how that feels when there are no gigs, there are no concerts, there are no audience. So it's pretty. We're living in somehow exciting times. Has never happened before.
Yeah.
Not on a scale like that at all. I mean, there were no metal bands during the Black Death. There were no bands during the Black Death.
Right.
Not that I know of, anyway. So, I mean, in such a short period, really. I mean, the last 25 years is a short period, and things have like gone so rapidly and so out of hands, like compared to where we started. So somehow, I guess we should feel privileged to have like lived through these times, because I mean, there's not many epochs in the history that I mean, so much has been going on in the Western world. So, yeah, I think we should feel privileged in that perspective, of course. So, but I mean, for a band, I mean, you cannot compare the 2000s to 1970, or not even the 80s to the 90s, because everything has changed so much. So definitely interesting times, and with the pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic, we have absolutely no idea how the music business will change, but it will change somehow for sure. We just have to kind of behold and see what happens. It's a bit sad, it's tragic, but it's really interesting as well, of course.
So we are like on the verge of something, no, for the musical industry. Do you guys are like planning to do stuff or waiting to see what happens while all of this change for the better?
Well, I mean, we have so far done what we can do. We have spent all our money on doing online shows. So we still have one more of those. We'll have the record release on 2nd of October. We are planning to, or we are making plans for European tour next year. But of course, like everything else, we have no idea how it will pan out, if it would even happen. But I mean, we still have to make some sort of plans. Because I mean, if a band doesn't make plans, if a booking agency doesn't make plans, suddenly this stops and you have no plans to follow. So basically, you have to somehow keeping yourself busy.
So
it will end sometime. We just don't know when.
Yeah, well, aren't you guys nervous because this is your first time releasing an album without going to play live for it, right? Is it still like something to get used to, like trust in the fans or anything else?
I mean, let's hope it isn't something we have to get used to. Let's hope for that. But we never know. Maybe this will go on for 6 months. Maybe it will go on for 2 years. We don't know yet. So, but I mean, for sure we will continue somehow. We just nobody knows right now. It's very uncertain. But I can guarantee you that Enslaved will linger on in some sort of form. This is not the end.
So remember better times. The last year was the year that we finally got to see the band in Latin America. So how was the experience of playing for the Latin America public, and why did it take the band so long to do this tour?
What do you mean? We played in Mexico already in 1995.
Well, in Colombia or in South America, that was more specific.
Basically, the only countries we had visited before was Brazil and Mexico. So yeah, that was an experience. Costa Rica, Colombia, and Chile. Yeah, it's also the first time. It was pretty amazing. Always nice to see new places. Of course, it was a lot of traveling. I think we had in 14 days we had like 15 or 16 flights. So it was a lot of in airports and shuttle buses. So we didn't get to see much else than airports and venues and some streets here and there. But the gigs were absolutely amazing. It's always nice to play in front of a new crowd, new people, and you can the energy exchange when a band and the audience see each other for the first time. It's always special. So that was really cool. So yeah, it was great. It was.
So for the moment, there is no plan for tours in Latin America, just Europe.
I have to be 100% honest, and no, there is no plans so far for neither South America, Latin America, not North America, and there's barely anything in Europe, and there's like a couple of concerts in Norway, like with restrictions, 200 people and serving at the table, stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah, not real gigs really, more like a cabaret artist thing, mostly. So yeah, we don't know.
Well, we can only hope for the best.
Exactly. Yeah.
Luis, do you have one question?
Yeah,
sure.
I have another question. So, the band's approach to biking culture is more introspective and spiritual. So, what do you think of the appropriation of biking themes and symbols by bands that have far-right ideologies?
I mean, it's pretty ridiculous. I mean, if you look at the history, there's absolutely none such ideas, neither in the mythology or in the history. Quite the contrary, actually, because I mean, in those days, in the so-called Viking Age, there like coalitions were made, and interracial marriages were really common, spread all over Northern Europe. So it has absolutely nothing to do with like stupid Aryan race theory and anything such. So that's just so stupid, infantile, and lame. It's not rooted in anything at all, except stupid white supremacist nationalism and stuff like that. Fuck those guys.
Fuck those guys.
Yeah.
I agree. Well, Mr. Grutle, I have one last question for you.
Yep.
This is a bit different. If you could assimilate Enslaved for his sounds, atmospheres, and lyric themes with another form of art, being a book, a film, a paint, or even an author, what would that be and why?
Again, please?
Sure. If you could assimilate Enslaved as a whole, or his aesthetics or lyric themes with another form of art, being a book, a film, or a paint, what would that be and why?
I think we would. The most interesting thing, I mean, the most scary thing would obviously be a movie. Let's not do that. I always like if you look at a piece of art, let's say a picture or a painting. I would like it to be a painting because you can concentrate so much, so many metaphors, so many layers and dual meanings in a painting. So I would definitely go for a painting stripped down as much as possible, so clean, so aesthetic as possible. So if any artists are up to that, I would like to see an Enslaved painting. That would be really, really interesting.
All right. That's
any specific paint or artistic?
I mean, well,
we can't show the word.
No, not at all. I mean, imagine if Salvador Dali was alive. That would be interesting.
Okay. Yeah? All right. Well, that's all for us, Mr. Grutle. I'm pronouncing it correctly, your name?
That's perfect.
I hope. Yeah.
That's how we pronounce it in Norway.
Awesome. Well, if you have one last thing to say for your Latin American fans, please do.
Yeah, thanks for showing up last year. It was amazing. Really a big honor to play in front of you guys, and hopefully this will end as this pandemic will end as soon as possible, and that we can, exchange some energy again. And that would be amazing. Yeah, thanks for following, and pay attention on the Facebook, Instagram for more details, news, and hopefully see you soon.
Yeah, hopefully.
All right. Well, thank you for your time. From my personal opinion, I love this record, and I hope this gain a lot of appreciation over the world, as it should be.
Take care.
Bye bye. Bueno, esta fue nuestra entrevista con el señor Grutle. Creo que ahora ya lo pronuncio mejor y con más seguridad.
Sí.
Bueno, pues fue difícil. No sé si no eran las preguntas adecuadas o fue difícil hacerlo hablar sobre las motivaciones específicas de este disco. Pero bueno, ya nos dimos una idea de que sí, es una banda que no se concentra en seguir una narrativa, en seguir una expectativa sobre ellos mismos, sino, hasta como él mismo lo menciona, tienen una regla personal en la que si algo comienza a parecerse de algo que ya hicieron,
no lo toman en cuenta.
Es cierto, no lo descartan pues. Y bueno, la pregunta que estábamos temerosos de que fuera a reaccionar mal,
sí.
Pues reaccionó mejor de lo que pensábamos, ¿no?
Sí, es verdad, ¿no? Como decía yo, pues la idea, bueno, siempre que hacemos estas entrevistas es como a veces conocer también las opiniones un poco de los artistas acerca pues del mundo y de las cosas que los rodean, ¿no? Y pues esta pregunta vino bastante bien pues con todo lo que está pasando últimamente, ¿no? Y pues aparte de relacionarlo un poco pues con su cultura, ¿no? Y pues la verdad estamos un poco temerosos, ¿no? Pero afortunadamente pues no por lo que nos respondiera, sino la reacción que tuviera, ¿no? Porque al fin y al cabo nosotros no somos quien para
cuestionarle esas cosas, sí.
Exacto, entonces bueno, creo que salió muy bien, creo que vimos un poco acerca pues de lo que más bien motiva a Enslaved para crear música. Creo que tienen una visión bastante honesta de construir música. Digamos, otras bandas con las que hemos hablado, digamos, sí piensan un poco más en conceptos, en ideas, en qué hacer. Creo que ellos hacen más lo que les nace en el momento y fieles a su estilo y a su tradición, ¿no?
Sí, así es, como que van con el momento. Supongo que tendrá que ver su estado de ánimo, donde estén ellos como personas, pero pues eso no va más allá de la motivación personal que de la inspiración, ¿no? Que puedan encontrar. Pues bueno, este es un disco de cambios, eso es lo que yo podría adelantarles. Y ya se ve desde los singles, ¿no? Ahí no hay engaño. A mí en lo personal, no sé si me encontró el disco de bien y de buenas, pero me gustó mucho, le tomé mucho cariño a los momentos que las canciones llegan a construir y luego te lo desbaratan de un segundo a otro. No sé, para mí fue como lo mencionaba en mi primera pregunta, un poco de romper las expectativas o las ilusiones que tenemos de acuerdo a los últimos discos que lanzaron, que podían tender, no sé, a ser poéticos, épicos, muy atmosféricos, ¿no? Muy en esa onda, muy en ese tono. Y este disco creo que adquiere otros tonos, y como Luis lo menciona, perdón que si te robo alguna idea, pero este disco puede llevarte a pensar o a querer integrar en sus demás discos, porque sí, tiene mucho de esos sonidos más antiguos, más cañeros, más blackers, combinados con lo que ya conocemos, con el sello que es de la banda, y incluso con otras ideas que por ejemplo, a mí me llevaron a pensar en Flames.
Sí.
Pero en Flames, o sea, no los compararía, pues este es un disco totalmente aparte, que puede llegar a ese rango de ideas, pero no se limita a eso, ¿no?
Sí, yo pienso que quizá la participación de Hakon, o Hakon, no, perdón, porque no sé cómo se pronuncia, que es el tecladista, en este disco tuvo mucha influencia, desde la parte vocal, donde una canción canta casi idéntico al Aaron Turner de ISIS, me recordó muchísimo a ese tono, a ese timbre de voz, y los teclados tienen gran prominencia en este disco, en muchas canciones digamos que son base y se escuchan bastante bien. Lo que yo podría adelantarles y puedo comentar del disco es que es el disco quizá más progresivo de Enslaved hasta la fecha, quizá junto con In Times. De hecho tiene una canción preciosa que, si no mal recuerdo, es la tercera canción del disco, que es Subsequence. Es una canción preciosa, es una canción que no diría que es una balada, pero sí es bastante melodiosa, bastante armónica. No sé, escuchen esa canción en particular, que es mi favorita del disco. Y para los que quieran sonidos pues un poco más, que rememoren más, como comentaba Alfonso, a lo cañero y demás, pues ya tenemos el single que fue Homebound, que también es una canción bastante épica, que la podríamos relacionar también con E o con Rethir. Entonces, nada, yo de mi parte, escuchen a Enslaved, escuchen su discografía, porque es una banda que hay que descubrir. Si tienen la oportunidad de ver en vivo a Enslaved, no se la pierdan. Creo que ha sido uno de los mejores conciertos a los que he ido nunca. No solamente por lo que entrega la banda en vivo, sino por el profesionalismo que tienen. Es impresionante ver lo que hacen. O sea, es una banda que, la verdad, su respeto lo tiene excesivamente merecido. Y Utgard es otro capítulo más dentro de su extensa y maravillosa discografía.
Fíjate, mencionaste algo curioso en el que coincido. Este es un disco que es muy prog. Y yo recuerdo que cuando salió In Time, la prensa y los fans pues hablaban de que era un hito para la banda en su onda progresiva, ¿no? Que era como que el eslabón más progresivo de la banda hasta ese momento. Y sí, creo que este disco construye logra otro hito en cuanto a el slide progresivo que nos gusta.
Uh-huh.
Y ya hablamos de comparaciones, ¿no? Con Borknagar, por ejemplo, el último disco de Borknagar, que me fascina. Esa canción, que creo que es la que tú mencionaste, también me llevó a pensar en Borknagar, o sea, hacer esa conexión con la banda. Porque bueno, Borknagar tiene también algo muy similar, o sea, aparte de la ideología, la idiosincrasia de una banda noruega, tiene esta onda de ser una banda ya longeva, que tiene sus raíces en el metal de hace 30 años, y que sigue siendo metal que puede sonar vigente, fresco, que aporta cosas nuevas, pero las aporta desde el panorama de aquellos años, ¿no? O sea, no es moderno como lo que conocemos hoy como moderno, sino es moderno desde su versión, desde todo lo que pueden aportar. Y esto es lo que yo encuentro también en Enslaved. Quizás no se quisieron quedar atrás, quizás ni siquiera tuvieron conciencia de ello, simplemente era el álbum que les tocaba hacer, no lo sabemos. Pero bueno, también llegan en un punto fuerte y a mí me gusta mucho. Me gusta, como ya mencioné, que rompa con lo que yo espero de él y que se oponga canción con canción a lo que yo esperaría que me dieran, ¿no? Y me sigue gustando, me gusta.
Sí.
Así lo dejo, ¿no?
Sí, yo creo que, pues, para concluir, yo creo que Enslaved, pues, y Borknagar, incluso Ulver, lo podemos incluir ahí, aunque Ulver, pues, ya sabemos que, digamos, con la música extrema tiene mucha relación, pero a la vez no. Mientras que Borknagar y Enslaved, pues sí, siempre han sido música extrema. Creo que incluso en la entrevista lo dejó entrever un poco Grutle, que fue que fueron bandas que fueron creciendo con la música. Es decir, ellos desde que iniciaron eran muy entusiastas de la música, muy fanáticos, escucharon muchísimas cosas. Algo muy interesante que mencionó fue eso, ¿no? Que a veces, digamos, nosotros tenemos cierta, pues, visión de la escena noruega un tanto idealizada, de que pues ellos solo escuchaban lo true y la música del verdadero metal. Y pues, como pueden ver, él mencionó bandas como UFO, Scorpions, incluso electrónica alemana. Supongo que Kraftwerk tendrá mucha influencia en su música y demás. Entonces, fueron, yo creo que bandas que fueron creciendo con la música. Es decir, yo creo que ellos no se quedaron escuchando lo que escuchaban hace 20 años, sino que fueron escuchando nuevas cosas y integrándolas a su música, ¿no? Al final, como él decía también con Pink Floyd, si al final yo escucho Pink Floyd durante 20 horas seguidas, pues cuando haga una canción muy probablemente va a tener mucha de la influencia de Pink Floyd, ¿no? Entonces creo que eso es lo satisfactorio de bandas como Utgard o Enslaved, que no se quedaron anclados a lo que escuchaban antes, sino que quisieron ir un paso más allá. Y creo que eso es lo que hace tan motivante su música en las fechas actuales. Entonces, cerrando, yo creo que para no extendernos más, porque pues lo importante también es que escuchen la entrevista, es que Enslaved hace otro gran eslabón, labra otra gran piedra dentro de su marco, dentro de su cerro vikingo, majestuoso, que tanto disfrutamos, y que ojalá pues la gente lo disfrute tanto como nosotros, y que bueno, que podamos ver otra vez esta gran banda. Como ya mencioné, es algo que hay que ver en vivo, así que esperamos que hayan disfrutado esto. Nos vemos en una próxima ocasión. Vamos a ver con qué otra sorpresa tenemos por ahí de pronto, algo entre manos, ojalá se nos dé, también para los fanáticos del progresivo. Entonces bueno, vamos a estar también teniendo próximamente alguna otra entrevista, alguna otra cosa que se nos ocurra, ¿no? Entonces, pues, muchas gracias, Alfonso, por estar acá acompañándonos. Y bueno, nos vemos, chicos.
Bye.